Hi everybody, it's Adam from BBD Boom, and I'm here today with Roger from Matrix, and we're going to be uncovering Matrix's journey with HubSpot, and I'll be talking to Roger about why that journey started, how they started to work with us, and their plans for the future. So first of all, Roger, thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us today. Could you tell us a little bit about your role as Chief Growth Officer at Matrix, and also a little bit about the business and where you operate?
Thank you, Adam, and delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Roger Clements, Chief Growth Officer at Matrix. Matrix is a workforce solutions business. We operate a platform for employers, suppliers, and talent to connect more effectively and improve the overall journey each one experiences in the world of work. The business itself has been established for about 17 years. We've been growing steadily during that period, but we've really experienced accelerated growth for the last 3 years under new ownership with Bridgepoint. Our journey has been one of, as I say, extreme growth, and we were an existing HubSpot user, which I'm sure we'll cover off in more detail shortly.
Brilliant. So you're in that category, Roger, of some of our clients where high growth business, lots of acquisition, lots of growth opportunities, which I think is a perfect fit for HubSpot because it can scale as you do that. But of course, you are slightly different to the customers that we bring onto HubSpot for the first time because you were an existing HubSpot user in some parts of the business. So could you give everyone a little bit of a background about, where you were with HubSpot and what really kind of prompted you to talk to us about supporting you further?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we were an established, as you say, we're an established user of HubSpot. I actually only joined the business fully about a year or so ago, and really reviewed all of our activities and all of our systems, enabling systems, technologies, and really focused on the accelerated growth that we've had, are we actually set up effectively to continue that growth going forward? We were in that situation of, a business that has suddenly gone through big growth, and we kind of needed to do a bit of reversing back to say, actually, that's been brilliant, but actually it's kind of, that growth is starting to stretch the business, is starting to we have the potential of some holes appearing in terms of the structure of the business. So really, I guess I wanted to put some structure to it. So we were already looking and reviewing our HubSpot activity. But really, the thing that really triggered our engagement with BBD Boom and also our review of the HubSpot activity is that we last year made what it was effectively our first acquisition as a business. It would be uncommon of Matrix not to do things in an ambitious way, and so it won't surprise those that know Matrix that our first acquisition doubled the size of the business from a revenue and a headcount perspective. So why start small? Let's just go the whole way. But clearly that brings its own challenges, and all of the thinking I was having pre the acquisition around, have we got the enabling systems, technology, infrastructure in place to really sort of support the continued growth that we wanted to have? When I say about accelerated growth, we've been growing at close to 40% year-on-year growth for the last 3 years. So it's not, it is a significant, it was been a significant period of growth for us. The acquisition of Security Watchdog, which was the business we acquired out of the Capita Group, really prompted us and forced us to really bring forward those plans we had around HubSpot in the first place. Security Watchdog and Capita were not a HubSpot user. They were a Salesforce instance. They had a Salesforce instance, and that Salesforce instance was all across the Capita PLC business. Security Watchdog was a carve out of Capita. And we, as part of that carve out, we wanted to ensure that we didn't, our intention was never to create two separate businesses. Our intention was always, from the moment we thought about our inorganic growth strategy, was always to bring together the business into an integrated business. So that integration means, integration of sales functions, integration of operation functions, integration of all back office functions, and customer management functions. And so to us, it made absolutely no sense to have two separate CRM platforms in the business. We made the decision that actually HubSpot was going to be the right platform for us, given that we are a highly focused marketing business. We wanted a platform that can give us some strong coverage in our campaign management activity, but also I'm a firm believer in sales CRM platforms and the sales enablement platforms and the ecosystem that sits around it is only valuable if it creates value for the salesperson, the frontline salesperson. I've been in too many organizations in the past where the sales CRM platforms or the sales enablement tools are there from a governance perspective, not an enablement perspective. I'm absolutely passionate about the fact that you only get a compliance and usage from the sales team if they feel it's making their job better.
Yeah, actually,
Roger,
on that point, that's a really, really fascinating point, because you had the choice of other CRMs that were well known and begin with S, and you chose HubSpot, which is brilliant. And it never ceases to amaze me that some of the conversations I have with people looking at CRMs, and actually the end user, the salesperson, is not really considered. It's a top-down governance systems conversation. And with your experience of different CRMs and different HubSpots, what different systems like HubSpot, what is the value that HubSpot has then? What immediately strikes you as it being better for the sales users?
So I think if I boil it down to one thing, I think it's a much more intuitive system to use. I think that there are many other things and factors around that flag around it, and I'll tell a story in a minute, which actually underlines exactly that point. But yeah, I think it doesn't. When we brought the sales team from Security Watchdog business into HubSpot, it did not take them much time at all to get used to the system. It's an easy, intuitive platform to use. And actually the configurability of it as well. I definitely feel like we have great support from HubSpot, but we also have really great support from BBD Boom, and the reason we needed a partner was really because we were dealing with quite a complex transition process and a lot of data to deal with. But actually, for me, the reason HubSpot was always going to be the platform really was because I'd had too much experience from other platforms that were just too complicated to use, and there was always a backlash from the sales team against actually getting people to use it. And from a sales management perspective, I don't want to be laying down the law every month about if it's not in the CRM, it doesn't exist. Yeah, and I've done that for many years, and in platforms that have been poorly configured. And you will always have the same monthly sales meeting. Is always the same thing where you have pipeline that's sort of off the grid, and you're like, well, hang on a minute, why is it not? And actually, now we don't have that. I actually don't think I'm really having particularly big conversations now about off the grid pipeline, as I call it, because it's just, it's easy to track, and actually the sales team now live in HubSpot day to day.
That's brilliant, and that adoption piece is critical for the accuracy of forecasting and the efficiency of the salespeople. And like you said, you're not worrying them to spend time on certain things like that. Could I just talk about as well, because what's interesting is if we think about the actual implementation for you guys, because we were dealing with different data sets, different places that had to be brought in, and also different sales processes. So I think we also supported you on kind of fine tuning the sales process as well in order to make HubSpot really work for you.
Yeah, and actually we use this as an opportunity for us to improve what we currently do, not just to integrate another business into what we currently do. So our our opportunity at this point was to say, okay, what should the sales process be? We have 4 or 5 different service lines, all had slightly different sales processes. Some more mature in their documentation of as well, and adherence to process. So we took the opportunity to then just start from scratch and actually map what a good sales process should look like for this business. We included our new colleagues from the acquired business into that workshop, and we had a great team from BBD Boom in supporting us in mapping out what a good, learning from what other people have seen, but actually from the point of which sales opportunities are identified through to them being closed and handed over into operations. What is the optimum sales process? How what is the conversion rates that we should expect at those various different pipeline stages? What are the measures, controls, and trigger points to move an opportunity from stage 1 to stage 3 or stage 2? We literally threw everything up in the air and said, let's start again. Let's map the whole process and let's build our new HubSpot instance around a combined collective sales process, which was actually quite therapeutic for the whole team, actually.
And Roger, how do you describe where you are now then, having gone through that process? What's the outcome looking like?
So the outcome is now we absolutely have a single CRM platform for sales growth, or what I call the growth function, marketing and sales. We have a combined pipeline, so now I'm able to report on, in the same platform, a completely integrated pipeline. I can drill down by service line, I can drill down by individual, and I can drill down by customer and opportunities, which is actually improving the way in which we approach some deals in the market, in terms of collaboration between the sales functions, between the sales teams, to make sure that we're cross-selling and joint selling where we can. I think probably the biggest thing that I was concerned about when we started this process was actually the data and the data pool. We had data that was probably, I would say, wasn't particularly structured in the way we managed it ourselves, in our current instance of HubSpot and our previous instance of HubSpot. And then we were pulling data from a large corporate and a large PLC organization who had incidentally also recently undergone a fairly significant cyber incident. And so the controls and measures on us accessing data was restricted for a good reason. And so that support of bringing that together was really important. So where we are now, data was successfully migrated. We managed to do it in line with our timelines, which was we had to be off of the existing Salesforce instance by the end of November. We achieved that. We gave ourselves, thankfully, 2 weeks of flex between that. But so we migrated effectively, and the team are now, the adoption rates are very high. In fact, I had a sales meeting last week with the team, and all of them are now using HubSpot for every aspect of their pipeline recording. So we I'm actually further ahead than I thought we were going to be, if I'm honest. But the journey doesn't stop there for us. We now are entering the next phase of the project, which is to bring all of our existing customers onto HubSpot and to use it as a growth enablement tool for us to be able to report product coverage across customers and wallet share, and also track the key sort of strategic client management. Brilliant. As well as sales management.
That's great, Roger. That's fantastic to hear. I'm so pleased that you've got what you wanted from the investment, and it's got tangible results. So I guess for people that particularly moving from another CRM such as Salesforce, or being in the midst of a merger acquisition, any advice that you've got for anybody thinking about making this move to HubSpot?
Yeah. couple of pieces of advice I think that I would offer. The first piece is give yourself plenty of planning time. It sounds obvious, but all too often there's customer and sales pipeline data is often left to the end rather and with a focus on core HR system integration, things like that. But actually some of the data is easy to miss, and take the opportunity to align processes. It is really easy to create two organizations when you do an acquisition, and that may well be your strategy. If that's the case, then great. But actually, when we looked at it, it was very much around creating an integrated organization. And the second piece of advice I would give is involve the team. It really involve the team, make them own it. And that goes from everything from your sales administrators through to your sales management. The workshops, having the team buy into the process and help create the sales process and help create the stages and the trigger points from each stage meant that we actually had no issues with adoption. It was actually a really sort of just a really great experience, actually seeing the team get excited about what they then will have to then use, and therefore they were actually quite excited about using it when it was actually when it went live, rather than it being a tool that was forced on them. And then the third piece is think about all the other tooling that sits around it, and think about how you want that to integrate or not, and what value those tools provide. We had one of the work streams within the project that we had with your team, Adam, was actually specifically looking at all the interfaces and all the integrations and all the other tooling that sits around it, and why we use it, how we use it, and how that data should feed into HubSpot. Things like marketing sequencing tools and things like that we use some other platforms for. Actually, the sensible use of that and how they will interact, it's all part of the planning process. So that would definitely be a big piece of advice for me, is don't ignore all the other touch points that sit around the sales process.
Amazing. Thank you, Roger. And in terms of the value of a partner, could you sort of articulate for those people listening that might be thinking about making this move, they might be a bit daunted by it? What would you say is the value of bringing in a HubSpot partner?
Well, if I speak from my own experience, I think there are two things that I wanted to get value from, and the first was we were in the midst of a fairly busy time of whenever you do any sort of acquisition, that was a real that was a I think realistic about the time and capacity that we had. But actually, more fundamentally, the value for me of a partner was actually the ability to critique and offer advice as to what is best practice. We could have very easily gone ahead and just replicated what we currently do and say, right, we're going to roll that across everything. Yeah, that would have been the easy and actually, frankly, the easiest and simplest and cheapest. But I think I'd be sat here now talking to whoever it might be about how I really need to re-engineer that process. Well, I'm not quite sure this is working. I now feel, just having taken the time and actually bringing in a partner to actually give us some advice around what some other companies are doing, how things could be improved, was a real value to us, and I think it's often overlooked. And then the other part for me was actually the bit that I was really concerned about was extracting the data and getting that data then put into HubSpot from Salesforce. And there were different options available for us. We ended up not using the plugin because it was because actually, as I mentioned, there were a number of restrictions from us in terms of the company whom we were acquiring from, having restrictions around IT infrastructure access and things like that. So we did it in a manual spreadsheet upload sort of fashion, which gave me the wobbles. I must admit, I was somewhat concerned about it, but the team, Clarinda and the team, and Adore were fantastic in the way helped guide us through it and gave us a lot of peace of mind.
Brilliant. And finally, Roger, what was it like working with BBD Boom?
Yeah, I would highly recommend, Adam. I know you and I have had the conversation about this in a number of times. My experience was that the team at BBD Boom were not only experts in HubSpot, which is great, you'd expect that, but actually the difference for me was the passion and enthusiasm they had for what they did. That really came across. And in fact, from the first workshop that we had, it generally felt that we were engaging with people that not only knew what they were doing, but also enjoyed what they were doing. And that's a big part of our culture in Matrix is if you love what you do, then you're going to be, then that's going to shine through with your customers. And I think we found in HubSpot, within BBD Boom, an organization that has quite a similar philosophy, which is happy people equals happy customers, which equals happy numbers. And I think that's a phrase that our CEO Mark Inskip has always repeats to us, and I think it's something that lives through the organisation. So I would say that's exactly what we found in BBD Boom.
Roger, thank you very much for your time. Really pleased about how it's gone for you. And we wish you all the best and hopefully continue to work with you on taking HubSpot to the next level for Matrix. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.